I'm ready if you're ready.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Confessional Magazine, and I am here today with the beautiful, wonderful Nicole Phillips. Thank you so much for being here today, Nicole.
Thank you for calling me beautiful and wonderful. Wow, what a nice day to start this, right? Wow.
I mean, well, you are, and you're also all things kind, and that's like just your message is of joy and hope, and I feel really lucky to be talking to you today. So,
Thank you. Thank you.
um, I know of Nicole because her husband, Saul, was the head men's basketball coach here in Athens, where I live currently. And I don't know, it's like this small town, but you kind of like, you just like know the good people in town. And it was the Phillips family. We're just so great for this town, and we miss you guys here.
Thank you for saying that. We miss our Athens. And my youngest son, who's in fifth grade, Ben, is like, when do we go back to Larry's doghouse? Like, when does that happen, Mom? And I said, it will happen, but it's going to happen after the COVID season, right?
Yeah. We'll have a big meetup at Larry's doghouse.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Nicole, I know, so I actually nanny for the Oyoa family in town. You know, you probably know the Oyoa family, Sergio and Katie.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah. So I've been their nanny for like 6 years now. And I know that you made such an impact in the schools here in town with like the random acts of kindness.
Oh. Well, first of all, those are the cutest kids ever, right?
They're
And
great.
yeah, and they happen to be in school with at the same school that my kids went to, Morrison Elementary. And I just was so fortunate to just have this like sort of a free reign in the school. So like I could volunteer in the library and in the kindergarten classroom and in the first grade classroom, second grade classroom. I kind of followed my children around the school a little bit. And I know that this is a difficult time for so many parents and the teachers for sure, because they can't be in the classroom sharing the way that they'd like to. But I felt so fortunate to be able to get to know the kids and the teachers and just the climate of the school.
Yeah. So I know you just kindness is your story, it's your journey. Can you just tell me like when did you start sharing your story, and can you just tell us some of your background?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's funny because everyone has a story, and I think so many times we take the more bitter parts of our story into our adulthood, and they kind of form the way we see the world, and they form the way that we interact with people. And so I certainly felt that in my own life. My mom is a brilliant woman. She's just so academically gifted. It skipped my generation, but it went on to my children's generation. So thank you, Mom, for that, because my kids do well in school, and I'm giving the credit to that to my mother. But she ended up getting a really well-paying job about 45 minutes from our small town in Wisconsin where we lived. And she taught GED to inmates in a men's prison.
Wow.
And my mom, when I was in third grade, fell in love with a prison inmate. So my childhood was perhaps a little disrupted from that, if you will. And I started going back and forth with, my mom had custody certain days and my dad had custody certain days. And on the days when I was with my mom, if it happened to fall on a Saturday, then I got to go with her into this men's prison.
Wow.
And I say get to, because as a 10-year-old, like, this was super cool. Like I got to do something none of my friends got to do.
Oh, I
right?
mean, right now I'd be like, sign me up. Who can I go talk to? Seriously.
Oh, right. Because we're desperate to talk to anybody, right? Yeah. I need to go do something somewhere. Yeah. So yeah, as a 10-year-old, I thought that this was really cool. And it really wasn't until I, got into seventh grade and eighth grade and high school that I really felt some shame from that. And I really felt that I was just different from a lot of other kids. And so we take some of that, I think, into our adulthood. And when I was, I was married, I had 3 kids, we lived in a nice house, and I was on the edge of what anyone would call an alcoholic. And now this is not like ancient history. This is 10 years ago. I mean, my kids are 17, 14, or 17, 15, and 10. So, I mean, they were around for a lot of this, or for my transformation at least. But 10 years ago, I was on the edge of what anyone would call an alcoholic. I was a drinker and a smoker and an overeater, angry really at my husband all the time, and just felt passionless and pointless. And I kind of felt like life was mundane, and it was one more load of laundry and one more dish to put in the dishwasher, and it was silly because I had everything I could ever want. And yet I didn't see it that way. I just held on to everything as if I were the victim. And it was really kindness that taught me that I could have a shift in my perspective where I wasn't the victim walking around on this earth. I was the victor. I was the victorious one. I was the one who could give victory to other people. And in doing that, it was like, okay, I just fell in love with this idea of doing a little act of kindness for someone, whether that was in my words or in a smile, in a facial expression, just that forming that connection with another person, even briefly. I felt what that feels like, and I wanted more of that, because honestly, we think that kindness is all about the person receiving it, when in reality, it's about the giver, right?
It comes back tenfold.
It does. It comes back tenfold. And so I, 10 years ago, had just a really small interaction of kindness with a young mom. And I just felt this high, unlike anything I had experienced from any of the bad decisions in my life. And I wanted to chase that. Well, the universe being as amazing as it is, I had gotten a call from the publisher of our newspaper. We were living in Fargo, North Dakota at the time. And the publisher of the paper said, I'm starting a new section for women, written by women, and I am hoping that you'll write for us. And I used to be a TV anchor, so I guess he thought, I'd be the perfect candidate to write about politics. And I was like, no way, I am not writing about politics. Would you write about politics, Taylor?
No, I wouldn't even write. I'll barely write a Facebook post about politics.
I do not put even a toe in that, like, because it just makes me feel icky, right?
Yeah.
And so, so he asked me, would you write about politics? And I said no. And then he wanted me to write about cooking, and I admitted that I had made lasagna twice, and both times forgot to put in the lasagna noodles. Yeah, like I might have been drunk, but don't be judgy, right? So,
well, been there.
Yeah. So I really couldn't think of anything I wanted to write about. And he basically threw his hands in the air and he said, when you figure out what you want to write about, you call me. So then I have this act of kindness experience, and I'm like, oh, this is what I want to write about. I want to know if other people have experienced this feeling. I want people to send in their stories of kindness, things they've done for others and how it made them feel, or times when kindness showed up at just the right moment, just when they needed it. I want to share those stories. So I called the publisher and I told him about it, and he said, okay. And yeah, right. It was real formal. Okay. They gave me a weekly column and they called it Kindness is Contagious. And so that was 10 years ago. And I still write that column every week. But
that's incredible.
Yeah. But the really cool thing that I had no idea about was that within 1 year of being really intentional about kindness, really seeing it in my life so that I could write about it, I had totally quit drinking. I had quit smoking. I'd lost 30 pounds. I had re-fallen in love with my husband, who is indeed a great guy. And it's like the whole atmosphere of our home changed. And maybe the kids were little enough to continue to throw tantrums, but I no longer threw tantrums in my home. And that can really change the dynamics of a house.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that's so great. So when did you wrote a book then? kindness is contagious, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So then I started thinking, I wonder if other people had access to these stories right in their hands, and it wasn't just once a week in a newspaper. I wonder if people would see the same transformation in their life that I saw. And I wonder if they were having a bad day, if they could pick up a story, read it, and reroute their day. And so I thought, well, let's give it a shot. So I took 100 of the best stories from the Kindness is Contagious column, and I put them in a book, and we called it Kindness is Contagious, 100 Stories to Remind You God is Good and So Are Most People, which was a little tongue in cheek, right?
I love it.
Yeah, and people, like, it worked. Like, people were like, this helps me when I'm having a bad day. This helps me to get myself on the right page before I leave the house every morning. And so then we ended up taking another 100 stories and putting them in a second book, and we called that Kindness is Courageous, 100 Stories to Remind You that People Are Brave and Kind. And then more recently, I have a girlfriend, and she said, can you write a how-to book for the rest of us? And I thought she was kidding. I was like, what are you talking about? And she said, you see situations now after your journey of kindness differently than other people do. And this girlfriend, I talk about her in the book, she's been around forever with me. Like, she's seen, alcoholic me. She's seen mean girl me. And she's seen that transformation. So I was like, well, I don't really see it. I don't know what you're talking about, but I'll give it a shot. And so I sat down and figured it out and came up with steps and came up with just encouragement for people to live this life of being intentionally kind. And we called that book The Negativity Remedy: Unlocking More Joy, Less Stress, and Better Relationships Through Kindness. And that released in September of 2020.
How's that doing? I mean, have people caught on to buying that book?
Yeah. And it's been really fun because, I try to stay off any sites that give reviews for things, because I know that I'm sensitive to words. I know that about myself. We can try to be as thick-skinned as we want, and yet words hurt, right?
Yeah.
So I try to stay away from that. But, when we first released the book, it was like, okay, I have a team that helps me and with 3 other women on it. And they like asked people who would read the book to write a review. And so it was like, okay, let's get 5 reviews. Okay. And then let's get 10. And then after 10, I stopped paying attention. I was like, we got 10, we're good.
Yeah.
And now it popped up on my Amazon thing the other day, and it was like, 47, which isn't like 3 gazillion, but to me, 47, I was like, wait a minute, like, people I don't know are reading this
Right.
book. And they're reviewing it, and they're emailing me or sending me a Facebook message, and they're saying like, hey, this point stuck with me. Like, this mattered to me. And it's really cool because it feels kind of organic, the way that people hear about it and then read it and then, come back and tell me about it. It makes it fun to be a writer.
Yeah, absolutely. So when you get these reviews, are they always from just like the paperback, or are you on, like, do you do an Audible or anything like that?
So yeah, that was really cool. Is I didn't even know it was coming out on Audible. It's by Baker Publishing. And so I just gave them the book, and were in charge of making anything happen. Right. And so, it was picked up for an Audible version. And so that was really fun, and also a Kindle version. So, whatever format people want it in, they have it. But the Audible version was really special to me because I live in Aberdeen, South Dakota now, and we have a really, really special school here called the School for the Blind and the Visually Impaired. And I've gotten to speak at that school, and to be able to say to them, you can listen to this book. Like, you can read this book with
Yeah.
was that really felt good to me.
Yeah, I mean, I could like cry thinking about, I mean, it's just so nice because that's a community of people that like maybe aren't often thought about when it comes to the entertainment industry, you
Right.
know? And like now they have access to this, and that's just beautiful. And even cooler, like they know it's more personal because you've been there, and so like they can connect those, and that's just really cool.
Yeah, it felt really, really cool. And at first when I was thinking, oh, it's on Audible, great, people can listen to it in their cars. And then it was like, oh, no, it's more important than that. It's deeper than that.
Yeah,
So that was pretty special.
that is very cool. So I know, how are things during like lockdown out where you are when it comes to like, typically would you be doing like a book tour or something like that?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. 2020 was a little rough on everyone, right? And
Yeah.
so it's, there are good things about, I love to see the silver lining and everything, but one of the things that happened was I wasn't able to go on this 10 city book tour we were planning on going on, a speaking and book tour. And I ended up doing Zoom book clubs. So I basically said to anybody, any book club out there that read the book as a group, I would pop in and talk about it with them if they wanted to. And that offer stands. I will always do that for people. But the other thing that I got to do was this sort of thing where I actually got to speak with groups that I would normally be speaking in a large auditorium.
Mhm.
I got to do this. And the feedback from that, which was interesting, even though I much prefer to be like, Taylor, if you and I could be sitting down in your living room having a cup of coffee, like that's my jam. That's
Yeah.
what I want to do.
Hmm.
So I prefer that in person. But what I've heard back is that some people really enjoy these virtual presentations because I'm right here. Like you're right
Yeah.
there. I'm right here. We can see each other's faces. And sometimes if you're, in the back of an auditorium, like you're not really seeing the speaker. You're
Hmm.
not really able to connect that way. So there's
Yeah.
good and bad to everything. But I don't even know. What was your question? Did I answer your question? I'm so sorry.
I'm sure you did.
Somebody's question about something. That's what we know.
So what's your plans for like, I always like to ask this question to people, your 5-year plan, because I always, I have dreams, I have goals too. So in 5 years, I want to reach back to all the people I've talked to in my first year of doing this to check up and be like, this is what you wanted. If you manifest it, you're going to get past that. But like, like, what's your 5-year?
What's your 5-year?
Ooh, my 5-year, honestly, it's not even about the things, but I want to talk to as many people as I can, and just, I don't know, there's just so I grew up, my mom's librarian for schools,
Mm.
and just like the love of books, like we weren't really allowed to watch TV unless it was Reading Rainbow. And,
Oh, I love reading Rainbow. Reading Rainbow.
yeah. So like we grew up just reading. We were around books. My sister's a professional storyteller in New York City right now. So like it's just the joy of stories and people. And in high school I didn't really have a lot of friends. I was very quiet. I would keep to myself, but it's because I was always observing. My whole life I feel like I spent like 30 years observing, and now I'm ready to like
Yeah.
interact. And you know what I got into recently? And I'm just rambling now, but I recently got into collecting old books, going to like Goodwill
Yes.
and finding an old book. Like I found a first edition of Old Yeller the other day at Goodwill.
A first edition?
Yeah. Yeah. In the Athens Goodwill. And it has like the copyright from the Capitol, yeah, it's all. And so I found this, but my whole thing, it's not even really about the book, but you know how like when you give a book as a gift, you'll write something on the inside cover. It makes me really sad going to these like thrift stores, and you open these old books that have probably passed through so many hands, but how did they end up at this store when like this was meant for somebody, and it says like, I love you, I'll see you soon, or like I have this like dream in my head of like connecting people's inside of book covers. That's like, so I guess maybe that's my 5-year like wacky wild thing.
Oh my gosh. I so want you to do one of those beautiful like tabletop books where you're showing the picture and then you're telling, and then like the picture of the book and the picture of the two people and you're sharing the story of where
Yeah,
that
because you
went.
can reconnect. Like sometimes maybe you just tossed it in the bin and you didn't realize this is a friend that you knew in college and they gave you this book for your kid's baby or your baby shower. And then you're like, what is this person doing? Like, I don't know. It's just interesting to me. And my dad's a playwright. And so it's just like it's just all words and telling stories. So this is my time to try and hear and tell and share all the stories because everyone just needs the joy. And I think that people are a lot better than we give them credit for.
I do too. I absolutely. Unfortunately, the ones that make bad decisions are the ones that get the publicity, right?
Mhm.
That ends up being the loudest. But there are good people doing good things every day, and that just gives me such great hope. And yeah, I love that you found your voice, because I know as a writer, as a speaker, as a person who posts once in a while on Facebook, like I will feel sometimes like I'm just noise. Like I'm not saying anything that somebody hasn't said before.
Mhm.
I'm not coming up with these brilliant ideas that no one's ever thought of before. I'm just sharing them from my perspective. And so that's what makes my voice important. But that's what makes your voice important, because you're always going to see things a little bit differently than someone else. And so, people are sometimes timid about writing a book or about speaking out or about sharing their opinion because they feel like it just doesn't matter.
Mhm.
It matters. It always will matter. So that's cool.
Yeah.
My 5-year plan is has started in it started in January of 2021, so now, with the next book that I'm writing. And so I think I anticipate that this book will take a little bit longer to write than some of the other ones, because it's very personal. And the purpose of the book is to help people look back on their life experiences and find the thread that they learned from each experience that is helping them to step into their purpose now, and to step into, I always believe our purpose has something to do with kindness, with helping another
Mhm.
person. And so I just feel like our lives are so beautifully aligned that if we take the time to take off the glasses of negativity and the glasses of hurt, and we instead look at each experience as, what did I learn from that? Like, there was something good in there. What was it in the middle of that hurt? And sometimes it's just that you felt that pain so you can help another person who's currently feeling that pain.
Mhm.
But so that's what that book is about. So that's the first thing. And then the second thing is that I desire to have a kindness cabin. And so what that would be is a large, wonderful place that people can come to just get spoiled rotten and recharge their kindness levels. So ideally, it would mean that people would nominate someone in their lives who is kind, whether this is a teacher who just went above and beyond, maybe it's the librarian who let the sad, lonely child, sit there during the lunch hour, whatever it is. And then to take those people who are nominated and to bring them together and give them, a long weekend. Everything's free. I'm going to lavish them with gifts, and then there'd be some training in there, and some motivation and some speaking and some tools that they can take back into their lives. Because if we can really pour into those people that have a heart for just loving the person in front of them, that effect, if we can keep those people motivated, keep them going, that's going to ripple out and ripple out and ripple out. And they're going to, even unintentionally, create new kindness warriors. And
Mhm.
so that's my 5-year plan, is to get somebody on board who has a really great lake cabin and, will give me money so I can buy things for people, like, really cool, like, I don't know, Yeti glasses and things and, whatever. I don't know. However,
That's so beautiful. I'm like over here like crying because it's just nice. it's just joyful. And so what my mom always says is that there's a difference between happiness and joy.
Yes.
And that like joy, you know, happiness is what like comes in the moment, it's there and it's gone, but like joy is sustainable. And it's just, you're one of those people that has just sustained this joy. So you just, when you do that, you're able to share it with other people. And it's beautiful that you have the heart and drive to be, you know, working towards that. That's wonderful.
Thank you. It's like, you know, it feels a little bit like having the cure for cancer. Like if you had it, you wouldn't hold it. And so I lived a life for so long where I was just living life. I was not loving life. There was a disconnect there. And kindness was really my bridge between living life and loving life. And so I feel like I've got this key, like I've been taught this lesson, and now I just want to give it away to everybody else in whatever way that I can.
Yeah, and I know you're going to, and I appreciate you for coming on here with me today so much, Nicole. It was so nice to meet you, and please, please, please let me know the next time you're in Athens.
I will. Larry's Doghouse. Hey, can I give everybody one tip to take with them just so they have
Absolutely, please do.
Okay, so here's your one concrete tool. Are you ready? Think about what you're thinking about, because our thoughts are the first step into our actions. And if we can start being kind in our thoughts to ourselves and to the people around us and to situations, then we are more likely to act on those thoughts in ways that are kind. So, you know, put an alarm in your phone that says every Thursday at 3 p.m., think about what you're thinking about. And just ask yourself, are these thoughts, is this thought right now, is it a to-do list? Is it, you know, a hurry thing? Is it a fear? Is it a worry thing? Is it a judge and jury thing over myself or other people? Mm-hmm. And then just stop for a moment and think, is this thought serving me well? Is this where I want to park my brain? And if it's not, reject it, replace it, find something else to think about in that moment. And so just thinking about what you're thinking about can really change your day, your week, and eventually your life.
You're so right. And I'm going to use that advice every day. I'm going to set the alarm right now.
Good. You're an overachiever. I love it.
Well, Nicole, how can people find you on social media, or if they wanted to reach out to you for some of these, you know, to chat about your books or anything like that?
Yeah. Oh, I'd love that. My website is NicoleJPhillips.com. And I have a show called The Kindness Podcast, and you can find that wherever you find your favorite podcasts. And my latest book is called The Negativity Remedy. So you can find that wherever you find your favorite books.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Nicole.
Thank you, Taylor.
Thank you. I'll talk to you soon.
And I'm glad you found your voice.
Thank you. Bye.
You're the brightest thing